Hey, buddy. This is Caesar. We are down here for our week 1 video recap. There you go, buddy. In this video, we're going to go over all of the things that we've been teaching Caesar and the rest of these puppies so you can get a glimpse into their progress. Hi, yes, you're so excited. You've been waiting so patiently. So just a couple of things before we get started. In your initial confirmation email, when you registered for the program, there are a bunch of resources in there. One of them is a link to our webpage that includes some handouts and also your video examples per week by each week. So I strongly recommend that you go in there and you watch the week 1 videos because I do go into more detail about all the behaviors I'm going to go over right now with Caesar, how to teach them, why we teach them, etc. Okay, so you can follow along in the video library by week. Also, it'll give you a nice reference for how to keep practicing all these things at home. We lay a nice foundation for these puppies. They do really well with us, with our training team here. But then once they go home, you also have a learning curve. So you have those videos that you can reference, that you can keep practicing and training with your puppy at home, okay? The other thing that's in that in that confirmation email is the link to book your puppy's Zoom lesson. You do get a complimentary Zoom lesson for after your puppy goes home. I will be opening up my availability for the Zooms this weekend, so you can get that booked anytime, next week or within the next 2 weeks, so that you can take advantage of that as well. Of course, if you have any questions, just shoot us an email. You can respond to that email. If you need help navigating any of those things, we are here to help you. Okay, so let's get started with Caesar. Hey, buddy. We're gonna grab some snacks. I'm just using the Vital Essentials. These make good training treats. They're just freeze-dried chicken. They come in different flavors. I like the chicken because they're a little bit softer. I think they're a little bit easier for the puppy to eat. Yeah, you hungry? Oh my, Caesar is super excited, just like how Milo was super excited. So I'll show you just kind of how we work through that a little bit. I'm gonna make sure that paws are on the ground whenever I'm engaging with the dog. There you go, buddy. So just setting a boundary with the puppy right away that engagement happens when you're on the ground and not when you're jumping on me. And you'll see within a couple of minutes here and you get some food in his belly, he'll start to settle down a little bit. But while I'm charging this clicker, I am moving around a little bit too because I want the puppy to come to me for the treat that's in my hand. And I'm just pairing the sound of the clicker with offering the dog food, okay? So I might do that 3 to 5 reps during week 1. So you can do this with your puppy when they go home. And you can see his arousal is starting to go down a little bit. Yeah, that's a good man. Okay? Okay, so after charging the clicker, yes, there's a video just on charging the clicker in your video library. Make sure you watch it. Now we're going to practice following a food lure. So before I do it with him, I want to show you how I hold the food. So I'm going to hold the piece of food under my thumb against a flat palm, just like this. I try to avoid holding the food like this because this is going to invite the dog to bite your fingers. If you hold the food like this, the only way they can get the food is by licking it. So now I'm going to show you. So this flat palm, just like this, I'm going to bring it down to Caesar. And you see how he's licking the food now? And he can stay connected to that food until I click and release it from my hand just by lifting my thumb out of the way, okay? So now I have a puppy that's totally engaged with following the food that's in my hand, but he's not biting me. He's learning bite inhibition. He's taking the food gently. Super boy. Get a few more pieces. Okay, so I can also just turn my hand and that makes the puppy turn. You see that? So again, while this seems like a simple exercise, you need to practice this at home. Make sure that you know how to hold the food so the dog isn't biting you, and make sure that you can make that puppy move all over the place when you hold the food in your hand, okay? So again, I'm going to wait for paws to be on the ground before I re-engage. That's a good boy, Caesar. That's a good boy. Now we can also start to teach Caesar his name with this exercise. So before I release the food, I'm going to say Caesar, and then I click and release the food, okay? Caesar. What a good boy. Caesar. So shortly after saying his name, I'll click and release the food. Caesar. Superman. Caesar. What a good boy. Sometimes we might want to give our dog a food reward or release them out of a position by tossing the food on the ground. And look at this polite boy now. That's a good man. And I don't use the clicker for that if I'm going to toss food on the ground, and I just pair it with a word. So we say, okay. And okay means that you can chase and consume, okay, this cookie that I throw on the ground. Okay, I think it's very important to pair this with a word. Okay, because sometimes you might drop things on the ground, and if I don't tell my dog okay, then that means that they cannot go after that thing and eat it. Think about when you're in the kitchen and you might drop a piece of food on the ground that is not safe for your dog to eat, all right? So whenever I throw food on the ground that my dog is allowed to chase and eat, okay, I always give them permission with okay. Okay. So if I'm gonna feed from my hand, Caesar, we click and release the cookie. Okay means you can chase. Caesar. Good boy. Okay. Great job, buddy. All right, so that was a lot right off the bat. So we're just going to take a little break and see if Caesar wants to play for a couple seconds. Where'd that long toy go? Oh, here it is. I put it up here for some reason. This one's fun. This one's fun now that he's got some food in his belly. Okay, and this is one I like to talk about play a little bit. So obviously Caesar is super excited to be interacting with me. He likes training, which is awesome. And he's in this state of arousal right now, right? Which means he's very energetic. And so when the puppy is like this, I want to also set some boundaries that when we're playing together, I want to teach you that the toy is the thing that you can go after and that you can bite, and that I am not the toy, right? So like at this age, if he wants to put some paws on me, maybe I'll give him a little bit of affection as long as he's not mouthing or biting at me. But then I am going to sort of get him back down onto the ground and try to redirect him onto the toy, okay? By flipping the toy around and seeing if that's a fun thing for him to chase, okay? So he is putting paws on me. I can give him a little pet and tell him he's a good boy, but then I'm going to try to get him engaged in this toy, right? Setting some boundaries. If I were to get all the way down on the ground right now and let him climb up into my lap when he's in this crazy high energy state, then he might start to think that I'm the toy. He might want to bite my arms, my hands, my clothes, my hair, whatever. But you can see now how he's like playing with the toy because I'm just not making myself an option, okay? Now that doesn't mean that you can't snuggle with your puppy. You absolutely should, but do that when it's like quiet time, when your puppy is sleepy. Get that dog into your lap then. Give them all the pets and kisses and all the things when they're not in a state of arousal, okay? This is how we teach our dogs not to be crazy and bitey with people. All right, let's move on to the next thing. So we're going to work on a hand target now. This might look similar to following the food lure, but it's different. So I'm going to show you the difference right now. Remember, following the food lure, he's connected to that food in my hand. For the hand target, we're going to disconnect from the puppy. We call this one touch. Great. And when he reconnects, that's when I'm going to click and give him the food. Wait for 4 to be on the ground. Touch. Super dog. Touch. Good job, buddy. Touch. Superman. We could try this touch without food in my hand now. So I'm still rewarding him, but there's just no food in my hand when I say touch. He offers the behavior. I mark with the clicker, then I feed him. That was so smart. Now let's do some sits. I'm going to use the release word okay for this next behavior. You'll see how we start to layer this in. I've got a few treats in my hand. Get him on that food lure. Sit. Get him into the sit position. Feed 2 cookies in a row. The last one, okay, releases him out of position. I'll do that a couple more times. Sit. Superman. I'm clicking when the dog does the behavior. Okay. The clicker tells the dog, you did it. You're about to get fed. He's on the food lure. Sit. Cookie 1, cookie 2, whoops. And okay. Okay. If the dog doesn't see the okay cookie, I just point it out to him, just like I did there. Want to do one more because you're so smart? Sit. Good boy. Okay. And you can see, because I set those boundaries very early at the beginning of our training session, he came out. Initially, when I set him down, he was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And he was a little over aroused. And I just set those boundaries of, I'm not going to bring the food down until you're, minimally 4 paws on the ground. I love a sit, like he's offering me a nice sit right now instead of yelling and jumping up at me. You can see how after just, a few minutes, the dog starts to calm down as they understand the rules to the pathway to reinforcement, what I like to say. Okay, now we're going to practice the mat. The mat is going to turn into a stay. So in week 1, criteria is simple. We just want the puppy to get 4 paws on the mat, and then we will feed them 3 treats in a row. Whoa, that's a big one. Okay, and then release them off. You're going to pick it up and move it. 4 paws on, gets a click. And cookie, cookie, cookie. Using our release word again. Okay. Good job, buddy. If the dog sits or lays down, we will roll with that. It's not criteria at this point. It will be next week. Superman. Oh, you are so smart. Okay. Let's do this 2 more times. Caesar, you're a smart boy. Over here. Great job, buddy. Okay. Super dog. One more. Cookie. Let's do here. Good job, Bubs. Oh. And I'm setting the food on the mat for this one. Okay. Good job, buddy. We'll give that a little break. We add a step to this behavior each week, so it'll look more and more like an actual stay each week. Look at you, patient boy. That's a sweet boy. Yeah, where's your toy? All right, we got a couple more things to cover. One of them is getting Caesar dressed in his harness, working on socializing them to their harness. I'm going to use this one for you. You are slightly bigger than your siblings. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to get him dressed. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. I like to pick the puppy up. These step-in style harnesses, this is what your puppy's going to go home with. I find this is the easiest, lowest conflict way to get them dressed. So I'm going to hold Caesar, and then I'm just going to put his little arms through the armholes. Then I'm going to do the Velcro, and then I'm going to do the little buckle. Just like that. Easy peasy, we're dressed. Then I'm going to take some food, set him down, Eddie, okay. And we're just going to toss a couple of those okay cookies, okay, around to get him moving and grooving and start to socialize him to his harness. Now we've been doing this all week. Okay, so these puppies are doing really good with their harnesses. Okay, sometimes when you put a harness on a puppy for the first time, they act like they're wearing a straitjacket and they can't move. It's kind of comical. But anytime we put anything new on our dogs, think about booties, or even when they get those collars put on when they're teeny tiny babies, they're like scratching at the collars. They don't know what they are. Okay, so we got to take a little time to socialize them to different types of gear. Maybe you continue to use a harness like this as your puppy grows. Maybe they outgrow this one. Okay, and you choose a different style of harness, or you don't even use a harness at all and you're just walking them on a collar or something, like totally fine. We just want to spend a little bit of time socializing them and conditioning them to that kind of like gear, you know what I mean? Okay, so that they're comfortable in it. So with their harnesses on, we can also ask them for a couple of things. Caesar, touch. Super boy. Touch. Great job, buddy. Okay, and we're just gonna do a couple of sits. I think just one. Sit. Oh, you're so smart. Okay. Right there. Okay, I know that one kind of stuck to my finger. Great. Okay, so he just had his harness on for a minute here, which is great. I'm gonna pick him up and take it off. Same way we put it on, I pick the puppy up. Gonna undo the clip, undo the Velcro, easy peasy, we're off. I did say this in a couple of the videos, you know, when puppies are small of any breed, don't take advantage of the fact that you can pick your dog up easily. I do like to give the dog a little bit of autonomy. Sometimes we need to pick our dogs up, totally fine. These dogs are gonna stay small, and so they probably will be easily picked up for their entire lives, but I don't wanna take advantage of that and have the dog start to resent being picked up, okay? So even when I was picking him up to put his harness on, I had him come over for a little piece of food, and then I scooped him up so that I was creating a positive association there. I don't want to inadvertently create a dog that when I need to pick them up, they're running away from me, right? So this is how we prevent that. Okay, buddy. So the very last exercise I'm going to show you here is just some socialization to handling. I have a few treats in my hand. I've got Caesar, yes, connected to my food hand. Instead of clicking the clicker for this one, I'm going to say yes, just because I need both hands for this exercise. Yes. I'm going to move through different body parts. So I just picked up his ears and massaged his ear canals. Front foot, yes. I'm just picking up his foot, massaging his toes. Yes. Good boy. Okay, okay, release him out of position. Reload on some food. I'm going to work his back feet. Yes. You did it? Yes. And of course his tail. Yes, good boy. Okay. And the very last thing I'm going to do is just restrain him a little. So I'm going to show him that I have the food. I'm going to take this hand, put it under his belly, gently, holding him still, feeding him, yes, a couple cookies there. And then, okay, releasing him out of position, all right? So it's super important that our dogs are comfortable with being handled in this way, because this is the way that your dog is going to need to be handled at the vet and the groomer, and your dog is going to require a lifetime of veterinary care, a lifetime of grooming care. It's important that we practice these things now before your dog decides maybe they don't like veterinary or grooming care. We want to make it easy and straightforward for them right off the bat, okay? So all of these exercises, the videos are in your video library. Please watch those. Get your Zoom lesson booked next week or the week after. Caesar did fantastic for his week 1 recap, and we will see you next week for week 2.